right, so I'm Lucy Shea and I'm the CEO of Futera. And Futera, well, we have a mission and it's to make the Anthropocene awesome. And the way we go about that is as a strategic consultancy and a newly minted non-profit as well. And what we do is magic and logic. So just to tell you a short story on that. So back in 2018, we took our partner client Formula One net zero, a net zero target by 2030. And the readout at the time, I think it was from Greenpeace, said, if Formula One can do it, then anyone can. But as we did the deep, carbon counting across the value chain of Formula One, most of the work was to be done across the generators, the fan travel, and only 0.001% of their carbon footprint was from the engines. So, the cars that go zooming around the racetrack. But in the work with Formula One, we realized that we needed to decarbonize across their value chain, where their carbon footprints were, but also think about the magic and the brain print. And so that's why we did the work, and you'll see it's live now, where the work is to get those engines to run on synthetic fuels rather than oil-based fuels. And the spillover potential of that is that the 1.4 billion road vehicles on our roads could get drop-in fuels overnight. Yes, we need electrics and hybrids and all the rest of it, but to be able to do drop-in synthetic fuels is a game changer. So the reason I tell you that story is for this session, we're going to be looking at globally connected value chains to reach net zero, and how we're going to need to transform the way that we produce, transport and consume goods and services. But why it's so fascinating is the opportunities for innovation and spillover far widely even than the value chains that we're working on. And that's why I find it really exciting. It's the solutions economy. I know that's a big focus for Exponential Roadmap. And just a moment to say thank you as well to Louise Redinger from Exponential Roadmap, who has prepped this whole panel. So I'm just subbing in for Louise. Thank you, Louise. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at decarbonising value chains and where you can really find the edge today. All right. So we have, as someone said to me on Sunday, oh, you've got the doers over there at Solutions House. So we're going to get a whole panel of doers up. As you can see, we've got a fantastic group of speakers. We will be joined by SBTi, Exponential Roadmap Initiative, We Mean Business Coalition, who are all working on the engagement of companies for climate action. But we're also going to have a panel with companies that will share what they're doing, their thoughts and their needs to make it happen. But before we go to there, I'm going to introduce Enrique Alvarado Hablutzell, who's the co-founder and CIO of Chi Impact Capital, to say a few words. So if you could give a warm welcome to Enrique, and I will attempt not to fall over when coming down here.
How are you?
Good, thank you, Enrique.
Very
welcome.
good. I assume there is an iPad I can use?
Yeah, there is.
Yes.
There is. Let me find it for you.
How are you, everyone? Yeah. I love the happy faces. Thank you.
Here. There you go.
So I have some time. Thank you about the presentation is beautiful. Awesome. You do amazing moderation. So this is a journey, and I would like to invite you to do something with me before we start. And this is to stand up. Thank you very much. You're going to do something that you will do very often, and this is breathing. It's a very simple breathing exercise.
Oh, can you be on the stage?
I'm going to be on the stage,
so
yes.
we can see you.
So you can see me here. It's a very simple exercise. As you heard, I'm an impact investor. We do a very different approach to impact. We try to do this in a holistic way, which means that we first connect with ourselves, and then we try to connect with the business and others involved in the business. So right now, what I'm going to ask you is just like a very quick, very normal exercise to breathe. Breathe in, breathe out normally. You don't need to do anything else. A few times. 1, 2. Think a little bit. You can close your eyes or not. You don't need to do anything else, just breathe. It's a very normal thing. Through this breathing, I would like you to open a little bit your mind and your heart to what we're going to discuss. Whatever it is. Breathe in, breathe out. It's a very hectic week. We've been moving around, especially the ones that we were speaking on things. But I would like to have this moment to understand that we are all here, humans, standing one to the other, speaking about stuff that concern us all, which is our planet. With the last breathing, I would like you to shake a little bit. So breathe in now, and shake a little bit. Leave it all out. And then you're going to do just one little jump and sit down. 1, 2. Perfect. You can sit down. Thank you. So this time, as you can know, I mean, like I love to do these things. I've been doing this for a while. Just speaking a little bit about myself, I have a career doing entrepreneurship for more than 20 years. I look younger than I appear. I've been doing investments for 15 years, especially in social and environmental impact. And right now, today, what I have is something that took me a while actually to write. More than just a keynote is a writing that I wanted to share with you. It's a writing that I would like to invite you to feel part of, which is impact investing, right? So today I stand before you to explore a transformative journey. A journey towards reshaping a financial landscape and a path towards a more sustainable and equitable future. This journey is about impact investing, and it represents powerful shift in a way we think about our financial decisions. Our narrative begins with a simple but profound concept. Impact investing represents a shift towards aligning our financial decisions towards our values. This shift is the heart of what we are here to do and to discuss and celebrate it. For too long, the world of finance has been perceived as a realm where profits and social environmental impact were viewed as separate entities. But impact investing challenges this notion. It invites us to recognize that our financial choice can be and should align with our values. It's a philosophy that embodies a holistic approach. One that seeks not only financial returns, but also social and environmental benefits. Now, we delve deeper into this journey. We begin to see that impact investing is not just a concept, it's a movement. A movement where people like you and me are playing a pivot role. It's about investing in ventures, projects, and bringing that difference and meaning to what we are doing in this planet, and generating financial returns. Impact investing means recognizing that doing good and doing well are not mutually exclusive. We are, in essence, reshaping the future of finance. We are crafting a financial landscape where sustainable value chains become the norm. The transformation involves integrating sustainability into every facet of our financial decision. From the companies we invest into the products we choose to buy. We are creating a world where businesses are not accountable for their bottom line, but also for their social and environmental footprint. Why this journey is so crucial? You may be thinking. The answer lies in pressing challenges we are facing right now. Climate change, social inequality, and environmental degradation are threatening our planet's future. It's evident that traditional finance practices have played a part in exacerbating this issue. But impact investing offers that hope, a path towards where we can be part of a solution. As we continue on this journey, let us acknowledge that change does not happen overnight, but with each impact investing we made. With each business aligned with sustainable values, we take a step closer to our goals. The power of this movement that transcends individual action is collective. Together, we are building a future where profits and social and environmental impact coexist. It's a world where investors are not just looking at the bottom line, but also at the broader implications of their choices. I'm closing inviting each one of you to be part of this transformative journey. Embrace impact investing and let your financial decisions reflect your values. Together, we will not only reshape the future of finance, but also shape a future that sustainability, equitable, and filled with promises can be a reality. Thank you for your commitment to this cause, and let us continue this journey towards a brighter and more sustainable world. Thank you very much. Thank you. This time I read because I prepared this week. So normally I know it by heart, but give me a break. Thank you very much.
Enrique, that was great. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, yeah, we can step down.
Yes.
All right. So thank you, Enrique. Big round of applause, please, for Enrique for opening us up and giving us such a fantastic breathing exercise and getting us into the mindset of talking about our topic today. So I would now love to welcome to the stage, we've got Maria Uters, who's the Chief Impact Officer at SBTi, the Science Based Targets Initiative, and Laura Perez Casado, who's a Senior Project Manager at the Exponential Roadmap Initiative. Big round of applause, please. And please go ahead, yes.
Thank you so much, and welcome and good morning, everyone. Very happy to be talking at the very beginning of this panel on this important topic about reinventing value chains to reach net zero. I'm Chief Impact Officer of SBTi, and I would like to share with you some of the beliefs we have, and I'll start about why is it important. A few things maybe for those of you who don't know Science Based Target Initiative. We're very proud. We're almost 9 years now, and it has been an exponential growth since the inception back in 2014, just before the Paris Agreement. And we have a strong belief that corporate have a huge role and responsibility and an opportunity to help the world reach the net zero. So we were founded on this and to help companies understand how to navigate between science and what climate science tells us and what corporations can do. Right now, we have been working with more than 6,000 companies. Just last year, 1,000 companies again set targets, either near-term targets or long-term targets. And the one fact that I would like to share, because I think it's important here in this topic, it's the growth that we're seeing gradually, the pickup in Asia, with more than 127% of pickup of setting targets in Asia, which I think it's important because a lot of the value chain is based in Asia. So this is very important. And the second message maybe I'll share with you, it's the importance after companies have worked specifically on their scope 1 and scope 2 very directly, the consumption that they have on energy, they change their, they improve the efficiency of their buildings, they work on their fleet management and so on. The big thing is about addressing scope 3. And this comes core to how the business is run, the whole value chain, the products you do have, the way you produce them, the way the consumers will use them. And so at the very beginning, companies were only committing on scope 1 and 2. But right now, it's about 96% of the companies who commit to science-based targets have now covered their scope 3. And this is super important because scope 3 represents on average 70% of the total emissions of a company. I come from a previous corporate environment, and in our case, in the food catering business, it was 99% of our emissions were coming from scope 3. So super important to address the whole value chain and the whole business. I heard that it's only about answers here, but we know that there are some problems, as you just mentioned, and it's about availability of data, traceability, capacity to engage the supply chain. There is many barriers that could prevent companies or make it a little bit scary at the very beginning about how to address the whole value chain of and your emissions of the whole value chain. We recognize this, but I agree with you. We need to look for solutions. Those could not be excuses not to move forward. And so this is why at SBTi we've been creating a few tools. And again, they're not rocket science. They don't solve all the issues. And I'm very happy to hear very concrete and specific cases, because each company will have to address their own business challenges. But we believe in a few steps which are very simple, I would say, that it's about making sure that first you understand what are we talking about. And again, we're talking here more about the upstream, all your supply chain, but making sure that you have a very pragmatic approach, the 80-20. Make sure you select and you look at all your suppliers' database, and it can be your tier one, start with that on your suppliers and see who are they, how to group them by kind of challenges and opportunities, so that you have addressed, or that you will be in a position to correctly choose with which suppliers you're going to be working. So first step, kind of very obvious, but it's important. Second, and this is a lot about the mentality shift, and we were discussing a little bit about this, it's how to make sure that there will be a willingness to address reducing packaging, whatever your issues are, or moving into recycled materials. So really securing buy-in requires a little bit of training, communication, discussion, so it can take time. But if you don't have this buy-in and this understanding at the very beginning, it's likely not to work. So it looks basic, but still super important. Third would be about making sure that you set the right level of ambition. At SBTi, we believe that it's important to have something that is really what the planet requires, and not just either a wishful thinking or a too low target. So let's make sure that everyone understands, and depending on which industry, whatever location you are, you probably don't have the same level of targets, but it's important that they are ambitious and in line with what is required. So right at the very beginning, let's be very explicit about what is the target that the company or the supplier will be engaging on, and so that you have an achievable but very ambitious decarbonization path. Last, it's about making sure that there is an opportunity for the corporates and their suppliers to track the progress. And so this is super important, because one thing is to say, hey, I have this target. The second is to make sure that everyone can share and report very transparently about the difficulties and the progress. And I strongly believe in the fact that it's a journey, that not everything will be done on year one. Everything needs to be planned and correctly anticipated, and then needs to be reported over time. And it's okay to have a low start, but it's very important to have a correct planning and tracking, measuring and reporting opportunity, and then to share widely. And I see many of our companies that are now very publicly disclosing the progress that they're achieving with their suppliers, which is something really important. So I'd like just to say that it's an important journey. It's not so easy, but I am very pleased to see a lot of companies that are sharing more and more their success stories, and their suppliers are probably the suppliers of someone else as well. So I believe in the halo effect, and at SBTi we're trying to provide some tools online, so don't hesitate to check on our website, our supplier engagement guidance, a few training modules that we're putting online. And just yesterday, on time for today, we released 3 case studies of 3 other companies. If I name them, AstraZeneca, Philips, and H&M. Have a look about what they're doing to retransform or relook at their business value chain and how they're engaging their suppliers. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd love to leave the floor to hear about Exponential Roadmap, because I think we're pretty aligned on this.
Yes, we're. Thank you very much. and thank you very much, Lucy. Indeed, the first point I would like to make here is that it is great that in all of these approaches, in all of this work that we do, that we are fully aligned with organizations such as SBTi, Women Business Coalition, but then not only that, also all of those organizations that we are lucky enough to work on a daily basis with. So it's great, and it really creates that enforced message that what we're doing is important. And then apart from that, I would like to resonate a little bit on, yes, it is a journey. It is not easy. It is a challenge, and we do acknowledge that. But I want to say, and I want to keep as the key message, that we're here for it. So that is on the first part that I would like to mention. On the second one, that would be on the cascading. You mentioned on the halo effect as well, and that is something that we truly believe in. It's very easy to think about a domino effect, right? Like once you basically tick the first one, then it's just easier that it moves on, and hopefully it will go even faster. We do have many years right now of working on issues with supplier engagement, and actually within the panel that we're going to have later, we have IKEA, we have Ericsson, two key examples that we have been working very, very heavily with, and that we truly hope that Tetra Pak, we will get the opportunity as well very soon. So all the tools that we develop, everything is based on best practices. It's based on what's out there, what are companies facing right now, what is the issue, and how can we overcome that. And now, once again, following the motto of Solutions House, one of the solutions is here, and so that is the Supplier Action Guide. So the Supplier Action Guide is basically a spin-off of existing tools. Basically, what we have tried to do with this one is that we have tried to compile on a to-do list, as in a checklist, what is it that you need to do as a company. Now, I would like to make clear here that we develop these out of our best knowledge, out of the knowledge from our companies, our members at Exponential Roadmap Initiative. But one very important point here to consider is that we do welcome feedback for this, because what we want is that we want to cascade this. We want this to be useful for you. We do not just want to promote a tool. We want to do something that is useful, that companies can use, and that hopefully it can have an impact. So this is readily available on our website, free, completely free. You can just go on our website, exponentialroadmap.org, and please, should you have any feedback, do come back to us, because we are here for it. We're here for the challenge. We're here to take it, and we're here to try and tackle a little bit the big challenge that supplier engagement brings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Warm round of applause. That's great. Thanks for building up from the setting the scene and give us the systems, the structures, and the tools that we can all work with. So thank you, Maria and Laura. If we could get the slide back with all the speakers, that would be fab. And now, welcome the examples. So if I could invite you up to the stage and perhaps take these 3 seats here. That's good. This is the moment where I wish I was not wearing heels as I come wiggling around here. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. All right. And here's Tagada. Oh, hi, Tagada. I'll lift her up in a mo so anyone watching can see. All right. I don't want to squash Tagada. All right. So we are going to have a panel discussion now. Welcome, all 3. And really talking about the areas of focus, key challenges, solutions, etc. And so if we could please welcome, we've got Mats Pelbeck-Sharp, Head of Sustainability, Ericsson. We've got Andreas Ahrens, Head of Climate, IKEA. And we've got Lars Holmquist, Chief Sustainability Officer, Tetra Pak. So round of applause. Thank you very much. So we're going to be talking about climate action in the value chain, and I'm going to go around and ask a few questions. Mats, we'll start with you. If you want to give us a little intro to the company and just, you know, where your most important areas are in terms of carbon hotspots, and if there's any particular example that you want to share with us, we are all ears.
Okay, thank you. I'm Head of Sustainability at Ericsson, and Ericsson, we provide the infrastructure that you all use now when you're sort of trying to send messages and everything over your mobile phones and so on. So it's to a large degree thanks to this infrastructure that we managed through COVID, for instance, and also the reason why we will have a chance to still meet some of the goals, the SDGs, and probably the climate as well, because we really need to digitalize. So that's sort of our key thing. When we look on the value chain from start to end, it's different from many other companies because we have 90% that is in the sort of end of the value chain, the use of our products, and not the supply chain so much. But we are mainly here to focus on supply chain. The good thing is that our industry we are using around 4% of global electricity in the world to run our products, but 45% of all PPAs in the world are signed by ICT sector. So using 4%, buying 45% of all additional renewable energy. So a clear driver. That means that these 90% is starting to shrink relatively fast. Then supply chain becomes super important for us. Hotspots. For us, it's we have 24,500 suppliers, approximately. We have 150 of them that is responsible for 90% of our supply chain emissions. So we have sort of a group where we can focus, and that's some raw materials, aluminum, and then die casting of aluminum. It is printed circuit boards, and it's the integrated circuits, and then some transport. So those sort of 4 areas is a very large part of our supply chain. But then we have the rest. And I think we have been part of developing this guide together with Exponential Roadmap. And I think the value that we can provide as well by working with this, but also by developing these guides, is really to help everybody else to work with it on the SME Climate Hub and with the Exponential Roadmap. So I think we focus on our key hotspots, but we also support everybody. And one last thing to say, we can put requirements on our suppliers, but we have to help them meet them because they are totally different on maturity. Some are more mature than us and some don't know anything about climate. So I think we have to sort of help them meet the requirements that we put on them.
Thank you. And any particular results that you're most proud of, whether that's currently or kind of projecting on some of these major areas of activity?
Yeah, I mean, we have, what I'm most proud of is, I guess we are one of the first companies that have concluded our first round of science-based targets. So we concluded that last year in 2022.
Very good.
So that's check. So now we have to set the new ones on the net zero and so on. And then, of course, we work really, really hard in our design department because how we design our products and also how energy efficient they are impacts the aluminum and how we use it. So I think I'm most proud of our integrated circuits and our ASICs and how we have reduced carbon emissions in supply chain by 30% in one generation of products, going from one generation to the next.
That's good. That's a good rapid change. All right. So Andreas, same question to you. Hotspots, areas of progress, any call-outs, offers of help? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would say in terms of hotspots, I think it's all parts of the value chain. Because also come back to addressing scope 3. We don't like to talk about scope 3 because I mean everything that here business impact climate change is our responsibility. So we have hotspots all over the place. But to look into the 3 biggest footprints, the biggest one, over 50% of our climate footprint, is the materials used in our products. So all the furniture and accessories that you buy home. Second biggest is used at home, but that we managed to reduce so much that it's actually becoming soon the third. And the third today, but maybe not tomorrow, it is the manufacturing of the products. And looking into how we drive this, of course, we need to both look into how do we strive towards renewable energy all across the value chain. We need to drive a lot with material innovation and development because it's 50% of the footprint. I mean, we need new materials, we need more recycled materials, we need renewable materials. And then finally, it's also, I mean, how do we transform our value chain into a circular one as well, also connecting to reinventing the supply chain. I mean, we need to create new supply chains. And I mean, to give you one example, hopefully something that sticks, it's also connected to a material agenda, which makes me really proud. It's when we set our goals and really reinvestigated our entire greenhouse gas inventory, we found that 5% of the footprint was coming from the glue in our products. And what I'm really proud of is that since spring, we now have a part bio-based glue in our product. So we can manage to address 5% of the whole value chain. So by soon introducing 40% bio-based glue, we can reduce that by 30%. So you as customers will notice nothing, but it will be more renewable. So I hope that was an interesting thing that sticks. Pun intended.
We've got a factoid, we've got a pun, that's good. It's wonderful, isn't it, when you find an area where you can just unlock action like that and see a change. So great to hear. All right, Lars, same question to you, please.
So I represent Tetra Pak, which is a company that is well known for its packages, and we do much more than packages. We see ourselves as very central to food, because we are focused only on food packaging and processing. In fact, we are the world's largest liquid food processing and packaging company. So we sell solutions business to business, but we're very much part of a total food value chain. And we have been working with SBTi for many years. In fact, we were one of the first to be recognized, and we have, of course, our net zero ambition to 2030. That we are tracking very well towards. And as we are centered around food, I just want to make one comment before I come into the supplier side of this, is that while we talk about decarbonization, and of course in our case it is about decarbonization of food in general, including packaging, we need to make sure that we look at all pieces of sustainability that are interconnected. So circularity, nature, social sustainability, to make sure that we don't leave people behind in this huge transition that is called the food system transition and decarbonization. So this is really important, right? That everything is interconnected. That, of course, back to the hotspots. We work as my colleagues here through the value chain, and in our case, scope 1 and 2, although you don't want to mention it, is, let's say, more under control in our case. It's a few percent of the total impact that we have on the value chain. The hotspot is really downstream, meaning the people who actually process and produce liquid food. And that is more than 50% of the carbon emissions generated through the food system that we operate in. So that's really the hotspot that we're looking at.
Great. And again, obviously you talked about some of the data that comes with that, but anything in terms of results now or future that you're particularly proud of again?
Well, I am very proud of the work that we're doing with our suppliers, and I'll get into that a little bit. We have a partnership program with all of our suppliers, and we have made a commitment together to reduce emissions to 2030 by 50%, and we're tracking very well on that. And again, it is only by working very closely in partnership with these suppliers that we can deliver on that. So we cover more than, I think you mentioned the 80-20, we cover 99.5% of the emissions that we are doing with our suppliers. And I'm very proud that in just a few years, we have been able to really have commitments in the areas from our suppliers and work together with them. So, yeah.
Now, as you may realise, we do have a few questions that are prepared here, but I'm going to go slightly off script, FYI. So, what we really wanted to delve into is, what are the challenges in meeting these emissions criteria? Does it open up new opportunities? So, still with that frame in mind, but at the same time, we've got 3 CSOs here, essentially, or Head of Climate Action, from really leading companies. And I think folks would be really interested to know, how's the job changing? So, because this does, is it with the continued focus on SBTi and net zero value reduction, is it that you need to beef up your data teams? Is it that you need to get better at stakeholder engagement? Is it, I'm not going to ask you, are you making the business case? I would hope that is made, but actually, is it that? Is is there still a moment of making the business case internally and externally? So I'm still asking about the challenges and opportunities, but I think it'd be really interesting for folks to hear, how is the role changing? Is it the same as it was 2 or 3 years ago, or is it a little bit different now?
It is different. I think for several reasons. One of the reasons is that, I mean, the financial part of the company is changing. So, I mean, green funding and the way that we are funding our R&D and so on becomes more green. Also, the new requirements on reporting makes this more of a board question than it was in the past, definitely. So there are more stringent requirements on us tracking supply chain and our own emissions. But, I mean, we have 0.5% of our emissions is our own, and we have 10% in supply chain, or 9.5%. So really, and that is a tough challenge to sort of get the data and so on. We talked about that, but I think we have solutions on working on that. We need to be much more sort of partnership oriented. And in fact, we talked about it just before we came here. I think one of the things that frustrates me most right now, looking at the whole thing, is that in Europe, we pay for fossil fuel prices on energy. We pay for gas prices while we are using renewable energy, which is a third or a quarter of the cost. So we talked about, let's work together on sort of getting access to the production price instead of the market price. We need to go directly to the source, invest in renewable energy to get sort of, and then that would drive renewable energy in a big way. And it's a business case for all sustainability officers to really say that, okay, we can save you 75% of your energy cost, their management, at the same time as we push renewable energy. So I think for me, that is a really sort of, that's a solution.
Yeah, that's great. And that integration with deeper and deeper into the business from sustainability, I think, is exciting. Same question.
Yeah, I think I usually say I have the best job ever, and it's always continually developing as well. Looking back on our climate journey, I would almost divide it into 3 phases. I mean, the first phase was setting a greenhouse gas inventory and setting our goals, and also understanding what type of main movements do we need to do to reach the goals and what is feasible. Then when we set the goals, we needed to create the clarity for the organization, both the buy-in of the goals that you also mentioned from SBTi, and then to actually get an adoption of them to start moving those main movements. Then what I've been doing now, I would say, the last 2 years with the whole team and Matrix, is really the organizational development. And what we're seeing now, I mean, many of the quick wins have been achieved. So the short-term movements have been achieved. We're now having more clear business cases where we need to maybe pool together a lot. Maybe it's very difficult for an individual, say, supplier to do an action. We need to now have collective bundling of electricity consumption to get PPAs. We need to find new technologies to, say, electrify the electric furnace, or the furnace that creates the water bottles that are over there, for instance, because they're driven on natural gas today. So these type of new technological breakthroughs we need to also find new solutions for. And also what has been my life the last 1.5 years, it's to understand digitalization. And I usually say that is one of the 3 main areas where I've been really scared and had to delve into the unknown, because we used to do a lot of manual data handling, and it doesn't work if we want to follow up commitments and goals. It just becomes too much of a bottleneck. You do more data handling than instead of actually helping people to take actions. And also reporting requirements. I mean, we will drown in work based on that. So really putting analytics in the forefront and then reporting requirements secondary. So we really lead and get insights for what type of actions.
That's great.
That has been my work now lately.
That's good.
Hope to leave it a bit behind. So glorious future, what the next steps will bring.
Yeah, creators and influencers and sustainable lifestyles. That's what's coming next, I'd say. Please, same question.
It's a great question, and I would answer in 2 ways. One, the first one is leadership and mindset has changed completely, because sustainability, at least in our company, used to be part of the agenda. Now it is really the agenda. It is the agenda of the executive team of Tetra Pak. We talk sustainability, not, financial indicators and then sustainability. We integrate it into the everyday decisions that we do as an executive team. So really leadership and mindset has changed a lot. Used to be part of the agenda, now sustainability is the agenda, and decarbonization, of course, is the key element of that. So that's one thing. The second thing is when we start looking at the total system in a different way, talking about the whole value chain that we operate in, it's much easier to kind of redefine the role that you have in the value chain. So we used to see ourselves more as a processing and packaging company, but by looking at Scope 3 and looking at throughout the value chain, we now see ourselves as an enabler of the food system transformation that is so much needed to reach decarbonization goals. So I think that's a call out, I think, to all companies, that it also makes us look much broader on our business than what we did before. And I think that's a really fantastic transformation for us. Yeah.
Fab. All right, well, that's the end of this bit. So round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. If I could invite you down, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all three for your fantastic contributions. And now, Jenny, if I can welcome onto the stage Jenny Arlen, Managing Director of Net Zero at the We Mean Business Coalition. Thank you all. You don't need this, do you?
I have 2 slides.
Okay, fab.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Great to hear those stories from companies and how they're really putting supplier engagement to work to help them achieve their Scope 3 goals. It was also great to hear from Maria and from Lauren earlier about the tools and resources that are being developed to try and help more companies tackle Scope 3. You know, we hear a lot from companies that Scope 3 is scary, right? It's challenging. They don't have the data they need. They don't know where to get started. And so what we really wanted to do with the launch of something recently is Supplier Cascade, which is really an effort between our partners BSR, CDP, Ceres, Environmental Defense Fund, and in partnership with SBTi, to really draw attention to the successes that these leading companies are having with supplier engagement as being a great tactic to really go after Scope 3, and to also draw more attention to the great resources that are out there to help companies do that. And part of what we want to do with Supplier Cascade is also invite companies to share their experiences with us so we can really amass the data that we need to understand what tactics are working best, what types of incentives really help suppliers get engaged, set goals, and really get moving on climate. But one of the things I really want to talk about today, though, is the role for small businesses in supplier engagement. So one of the things that we often see with leading companies who are doing supplier engagement is that they focus on the biggest percent of spend or on those top suppliers that are really important. And that makes sense. You have limited resources. You want to get the most bang for your buck, so you go for those suppliers. But often what happens is you ignore that long tail of small businesses who are also in the supply chain. And what we know is that small businesses make up 90% of global business. They employ 70% of people, and they represent 50% of global GDP. So if we're going to get to an equitable net zero future, we have to have small businesses engaged. And what we hear from those small businesses who are part of that climate journey is that they really are lacking the skills, the time, the resources that they need to be as successful as they want to be. And we also understand that a lot of them are very vulnerable, that an SME often after a climate disaster, 50 to 60% of them end up closing their business. So this isn't just about the mitigation, but this is about the resilience and the adaptation that they need so that they can be a thriving business. And so one of the other things that we did here in feedback from SMEs is that one of the biggest motivators for them to actually take action is to be asked by a customer. And in the survey data that we have, only 23% have ever been approached by a customer about climate. So we know there's a huge gap in just that communication, that conversation. And so we want to encourage all companies as they're thinking about doing supplier engagement to make sure that they're at least talking to their SMEs about it. Maybe they can't invest the same level of time and resourcing, but at least make sure that they're part of that conversation. And the other thing that we have is the SME Climate Hub. We've created this with our partners' Exponential Roadmap Initiative, as well as the UN Race to Zero, to really try and create a one-stop shop for SMEs. So it's full of tools and resources that are free for them to access and use to help them on their climate journey. It starts with a business carbon calculator where they can actually do their inventory and figure out what their emissions are. That's free for them to use. They can make a commitment and become part of the race to zero, committing to having their emissions by 2030 and reaching net zero by no later than 2050. And they just have to agree to do the reporting year over year as part of that. We're also continuing to build a lot of educational tools and resources to help them think about how to understand the topic, how to reduce their emissions, where to get help, how to think about funding. And then we just recently launched a reporting tool. So a streamlined way for SMEs to be able to start reporting their progress. That's aligned with the CDP disclosure, but not nearly as long. So again, right-sizing it for SMEs so it's not too intimidating. And so I guess I'd just like to leave on that note that there are resources available for both big companies and small companies, and that supplier engagement is a great way to not be paralyzed by the lack of perfect data and perfect accounting, but really to have a bias towards action and to get more companies engaged in the journey. So thank you.
I think that's a fabulous note to end on, and very solutions focused. So thank you, Jenny Ireland from the We Mean Business Coalition. And I would just like to say a warm thank you to all the rest of our panelists. And we'll close now, leave a little bit of time for, I've got a new joke, by the way, from Joel Mackauer. He said the other day, I love the word networking because it's only one letter different to not working. So we're just... I have to credit him for that. So we're just going to have 5 minutes of some networking now. So thank you all. The event will be live, streamed on the Solutions House YouTube channel. I should have said that. And again, please do tag us, or if you're posting any content, with the hashtags Solutions House 2023. Thank you so much.